All right, hello everyone. Just give me a second here, trying to clip on my mic. All right, hopefully that sounds pretty good. Connor, are you able to hear me, bud? Let's see here. Sound working? It's janky. Okay, let's see. Is it too quiet? Does that sound better? I'm gonna A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Sound check here. Let me know what you think. Appreciate your help. Sound check. Let's see. Cutting in and out. Okay, let's see. What can I do to fix that? First of all, let's check the connection. All right. Okay, cutting in and out. I wonder, just in the volume, it all helps. All right. Did any of that help? I wonder. Okay, so all right. The screen seems to have been paused. What happened here? Nope. Hi everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Modeling Maestro live stream. We've got an aircraft buzzing by outside. Let me know if you're able to hear. Let me know if it's too quiet. Connor's let me know it's a little bit, it's cutting in and out. Let me know if you're having the same experience. Sounds like audio is skipping. Okay. Let me see if I've got any extra things open that I just don't need right now. Take that off. Power is good, so that shouldn't be an issue. Looks like we got four viewers right now. Welcome everyone. This is Modeling Maestro. We'll get started here in just a minute. I've just got some bugs to work out. Appreciate you sticking with us. We got some fun stuff coming up, as you can see on the bench here. Okay. Let's see, is there anything else I can do? Camera microphone turned off in max settings. All right. Thanks for hanging in there, folks. Welcome. Let's see. Reset permissions. Is the sound still there, and has it improved at all? Would appreciate your feedback. Would appreciate your feedback if you're able to hear or not. Still sounds off. Okay, let me do something a little bit more drastic here. Okay. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Just working out a few kinks here in the audio. Let's see. I wonder if. Okay, turn that off and back on. Unplugged. That should be plugged. That should be good. things sound any better still? Okay, I wonder if... All right, reset a few more, get some feedback. Hello? Nope. Okay. Did that help at all? I think I did something that might have worked. Let me know if it's still skipping or if it's any better. Appreciate your feedback. All right, much better. I'm getting great. It's good now. Okay, cool. Yep. I'm not a computer whiz by any stretch. Sometimes I go with the old school, just unplug and replug and push a bunch of buttons and hope for the best. And it seemed pushing a bunch of buttons helped. So welcome everyone. Thank you for sticking around. I really appreciate that. Modeling Maestro here, AKA Jason. And as you can see here, I'm working on the F-8 Crusader. This is the Hasegawa kit. I've been working on it for a couple of weeks now. It's going pretty good. I just landed it on its landing gear for the first time. They are actually the rear, the main gear are not plugged in, or excuse me, not plugged in, are not glued in. They're just set in place right now. I just wanted to make sure I got the angles right and everything before I started gluing. But it looks like the levels are pretty good. I will take a ruler at some point and make sure that the edge of the wings are matching fairly close. I don't, get too crazy, but I do want to make sure the plane's not lopsided. Yeah, this is where we're at so far. So for now, I think what I'm going to work on today is I'm going to flip it over and we are going to start doing some weathering with oils. The effect I'm going to use is basically, well, as you can see here, I've got panel lines. There's some people like to call panel lines weathering. I and other modelers don't actually consider this a form of weathering per se. It's really creating shadows at a scale that, how do I explain it? It's essentially creating shadows at scale, okay? Now, my personal feeling is I went a little too heavy-handed on the color of the seams here. I think I've got the panel lines just a little bit too dark. If I flip it over, it just feels pretty darn drastic. Now this is, my aesthetic is to go lighter. I don't know what happened. I think I just kept darkening it, and at some point it just got too much. But that's all right. That's where we are. This is just another lesson learned. I've got maybe, 6 or 7 models right now in the case that are this sort of light gray and insignia white color. And I would say about 1/3 of them are too heavy and the others are lighter. So I've done a fairly good job recently of getting them lighter, but this one I think just missed the mark a little bit. But again, that's an aesthetic thing. I know that there are people who like this, and so I'm not worried about it too much. But I'm going to essentially create now true weathering, which is essentially creating differences in panels because of fading or use. I'm going to create grime, I'm going to create smoke, I'm going to do very little chipping, not a whole lot of chipping. I'll do a little bit around the gears and the struts and the wheels, but I like to keep that at a minimum for this kind of aircraft. But we're not talking about, we are talking about Marine, we're talking about stationed in and around Vietnam during the Vietnam era. And if you've ever seen any pictures of specifically the Marine aircraft that are on the ground, they sustained a lot of weathering. Whether or not they had the same care that is put in Navy aircraft, I don't know, but it doesn't. It appears that there's some sort of just overall heavier weathering when it comes to the F-8s stationed on a base in Vietnam. So that's the look I'm going to go for. So admittedly, these will be a little bit heavier in the weathering department, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm not. I don't like to go too crazy on average when it comes to weathering, but we'll see. Yeah, just kind of feel it out, see how it goes. Yeah, I'd like to know in the chat, if you wouldn't mind, just let me know what you're working on, or if you're not working on anything currently, what you plan on working on fairly soon. Eric, good to see you there, bud. Dallas 1942. Awesome. Connor, happy to have you back, bud. And we've got a Jim Darkwing. Welcome. Feel free to let us know what you're working on. Would love to know. All right. I think I'm just going to kind of dig in. For today, I'm going to focus on the underside of the aircraft. And I think initially I'll kind of start working with some general fading in some of the panels. I think that's kind of where I'm going to start. And then I'll start working on some chipping. And then from there, I think I'll work on streaks. Okay, streaks I like to save for kind of one of the last effects. If I'm going to do some panel differentiation or shading or whatever, I like to do the streaks after that. I feel like the streaks would be one of the last weathering effects to occur. All right, so what I've got here is on a piece of cardboard, I've got some artist oils, and just so you know, I work with what we call Winsor & Newton colors. So here's an example, okay? These aren't acrylic, these are just straight artist oils. And as you can see, by putting them on this cardboard, I believe it's linseed oil, sort of extracts from the pigment, and we get to work with the pigment more readily, okay? And by removing that linseed oil, it takes away the part of the paint that allows it to stay dry longer, okay? So I will be able to work with the product for a while, but at some point it will start to dry pretty well. And that's what I think we want ultimately. But as you can see, I've got black, I've got basically a brown and a white, and these are the colors that I'm going to work with. Mostly I'm going to combine them. And I'm always going to, for this lighter color, I'm going to start with the white. I don't want to jump right into black and then try to bring that black down to a lighter gray. I like to start with the white and then bring it up to a little bit darker. And as you see, I'm going to remove quite a bit because the black really affects, as you can see here, affects the white quite a bit. Okay, and I'm just going to keep blending. And now I'm getting a little bit closer to an insignia white. And I've talked about this before. An insignia white was a color that they painted a lot of these aircraft on the underside. And it's not exactly a white. It is a white with a slight, you'll always notice there's just a slight tan color or a beige color. So I'm going to try to get a little bit of that going in here too. Okay. But I'm also going to make it a little bit darker by having brought in that black. And at this point, I'm just going to bring in a bunch of white just to build up material. All right, so this is pretty good here. And a little too much on the brush, but that's all right. I've also got on hand some Q-tips and some turpenoid. This is not turpentine. Do not mistake this for turpentine. Turpentine is not what we work with artist oils. It is the turpenoid. Okay. And I'm just going to find a panel here that I'm going to kind of mess around with. I'm gonna pick one of these here near the nose gear and make sure we're in screen well here. And I'm just going to place it on and kind of see what happens. Okay, so obviously it's a lighter color, okay? And that's fine. There's nothing that says we can't weather with a lighter color. And notice on the edge is a little bit darker than the inside. I didn't really do any pre-shading, so if that's happening, it's because when I laid down the oil wash, it slightly stained the edges, which is a totally fine effect, right? We try to achieve that with pre-shading. Pre-shading is the effect where the aircraft's essentially black and you spray the lighter color in the center of each panel. That's one way to do it. There are other ways to do it. You can also have a white aircraft and spray black or a very dark gray at the edges of the panel or at the panel lines themselves. Either way, you essentially achieve the same effect. But pre-shading is not an effect I typically like to use. There will be an exception when I work on my low-vis F-14. I will certainly be using pre-shading for that model. But I would say 90% of the time I don't really use pre-shading. It's just not an effect. I think that it's heavy-handed often, and I feel like I can achieve a lot more with artist oils than I can by sort of spraying everything and then just hoping it works out. By working with these artist oils, and by the way, this is an effect when we're weathering with artist oils directly onto the model. It's an effect that modelers would like to call oil rendering. You might hear that term thrown around. And so that's essentially the effect I'm doing. I'm trying to create the same kind of weathering effects that we get with pre-shading, just using essentially a post-shading technique. Okay. All right, so I am tackling the slightly darker edges and attacking it with a little bit lighter color. All right, and that's neat because it creates contrast. It looks like there's wear here. And what I'm going to do now is I've laid some down. I'm just going to kind of blend it. And I'm going to see if I like this effect and if I want to do this again on other panels. Now you notice it's softening up. The edges are going away, right? But there's still now just a little bit of effect. I'll tell you what, I'm going to try to bring this down a little further so I can get a little closer. All right, in fact, let's see if I can really get close. All right. Well, it did something. I don't know if it's interesting enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a little bit more black and try to get this closer to gray. And now I'll show you here, I got much darker. Okay, let me see if I can get in the screen here. There we go, yeah, much darker. Okay, so let's kind of go in that direction. I'm going to work on this panel and see if I can get its edges. And I'm just going to do sort of splotches. I don't want to, I'm going to try to randomize it. I'm excited today because if you know, some of you know, I'm a teacher, and today is my first day of summer. So very, very excited. I finished off the year with graduation. I teach high school and middle school, and today was the high school graduation. Wonderful ceremony. But I can see the relief in all the teachers after the ceremony of like, yes, get to go home and sleep. So that's the high I'm kind of on right now. All right, here we go. So I'm just taking a soft brush, a dry brush, and I'm just trying to, the word isn't even blend. I'm just trying to attack the edges of those little drops that I made. Okay, because you see I can still, if I don't work too hard in it, let me grab a toothpick. If I don't work the material too hard with the brush, I can still get shapes. I can still get these little shapes here. And this is where I think the interest comes. Now, I'm working on this and it's been a long time since not a long time, it's been since the last model, so probably about a month since I've done oil rendering. And so this is kind of an experiment stage. This is why I'm working, first of all, on the underside of the aircraft. If I make big mistakes, it's okay. If I make any mistakes at this point, I can take a Q-tip, a dry Q-tip, and run it across and pull off 90% of that mistake. If I really need to take everything off, I'll dip a little bit of terpenoid and then wipe it off, and I can get nearly 100% of it. It's really, really incredible stuff. On my screen, it looks good, but from here, where I'm looking at, I'm not quite happy with it. So I'm gonna take some of it off. Okay. And if I go one direction, it lifts off kind of a small amount. And if I go the other direction as well, it pulls off even more. Okay. So now I'm really kind of, rather than worrying about shapes, at this point, I'm just kind of creating shadows. Or maybe the word is grime, yeah? And I think this looks a little bit better. Okay? Again, the effect I had it before I started to remove some of it could totally work. I'm just not, I want to like kind of ease into this a little bit and kind of see how drastic I want to go. Because this panel received this kind of weathering, I would assume that this panel would also receive the same kind of weathering. So even though I'm trying to be random in some sense, there's also a little bit of symmetry. But I might not just pick the exact same. So whereas here I kind of pick the edges or the corners, now I'm going to go to the center a little bit and continue to create that sort of random effect. All right, in a second here, I'm going to take a look at the computer and see what you guys are working on model-wise. Let me just go ahead and flip this real quick. All right, and I'm going to let it just sit a little bit. I'm not in a hurry. I don't need to be in a hurry with oil paints. This would take probably a day and a half, maybe even 2 days in order for it to be very difficult to remove, even with thinner. All right, let's see what Jeremy's working on here. Eric's working on Hasegawa F-4U Corsair. We got Jim working on tinkering around with a Hasegawa A7 with res kits upgrades. Very nice, good. Yeah, Connor just spent 5 minutes looking for a part that was already attached. Been there. Oh, that's terrific. Thanks, guys. That's awesome. All right. Oh, you got an MI-24, Connor, by Zvezda. Yes. Oh, I love that kit. I really, really enjoyed that. I've got one sitting right here in my one of my shelves. My only issue with the kit, I just remember, was the lack of rivets on the exterior. I ended up getting, I've got some here. I think they're Mike Grant. They're either transfers. Oh yeah, Mike Grant and also Archer fine transfers, and these are essentially rivets that you can put on the vehicle. So I put a whole bunch of these on that one, on that specific model, and it worked out okay. It worked out all right. It's not a huge deal. I just, for some reason, I felt like getting a little picky with it, but it builds up to really nice model. As I recall, I also got the res kit cockpit for it as well. But yeah, that was a fun build. I plan on doing another Hind gunship in the near future. In fact, I think I almost purchased one a couple days ago. I do want to try the Trumpeter has a 48 scale Hind gunship, and I want to try one of those as well. So yeah, great. I'd love to, when you get a chance, send me some progress photos. I'd love to see those. Such a cool vehicle. I remember the old Monogram kit was just, the box art was so cool. I attempted one as a kid too, and just love the shape of it. The cockpit, so weird looking. Looks like an alligator or something, or some sort of lizard creature. Very cool helicopter. 5 blades in the rotor. So unique. All right, that's okay. You know, yeah. I'm gonna just add a little bit more. It's a little bit too blotchy, I think. I don't, wear doesn't have to happen on the edge of the panels. I think what I'm picturing is the panel being opened and grimy hands accessing it, all right? But of course, grime can also, you know, we can have spots and stuff on the inside, all right? I can go like that. Not sure if you're able to see. Yeah. Put little dots here and there. And I don't want to blend them. I'm just going to leave them like that. Okay? All right, let's see here. Here, there's going to be a landing light. And I'm also going to have an antenna here. So I'm going to try to avoid some of these areas a little bit. Oh, I also need to create, there's a little pole that's supposed to go here in the, essentially it's like an arrestor hook kind of grip there. So I got to put a hole there as well. But all right. This section here is a speed brake that would open up. So I'm gonna add some stuff around it. You'll notice the color of this gray. When I think of grays, I think of not only dark and light, there's a hair there, but I also think of blues and reds. And you'll notice, like for instance, this gray to me has bluish tint to it, okay? If I added a little bit of purple, I'd be able to, or not purple, red, just a little bit of red, it would pull it away from that blue and bring it more to a neutral kind of gray, which is also kind of creates different shades. Even if I'm talking about one kind of darkness of gray, I can also go into the blue or the red areas. But when I'm looking at on the model, it doesn't look so blue. It actually looks like the black kind of comes back up and gives it more of a grimy grayish look. So this is working out just fine. All right, this the speed brake goes around here. Okay. It's a little streaky. Oh, gotta make sure I'm on screen here. Yeah, right at the corners, the edges here. On my computer here, which you don't have access to, but I'm looking at an image of an F-8 stationed, I believe it's Da Nang. And so I'm looking at the kind of the grime of these vehicles out in the wild. Okay, it's okay. Again, I'm just trying to experiment, just trying to get the feel of it again. Okay, I'm gonna move further up. I believe these access points would have a lot of folks opening them up and trying to access things inside. I'm not exactly sure what would be accessed here, but because it's so close to the guns and the landing gear, I think it would be used quite a bit. All right, now I want to mix things up just a little bit. I'm gonna pull some of this paint in another area of the board here. Bring it back up to lighter. Okay, but I'm gonna kick in a little bit of the brown and kind of see what I can get out of it. Let's get a little extreme here. All right, cool. So let's see where that goes. All right, I'm gonna put it right on this panel here. Get this one especially grimy looking. Again, I'm trying to be random, and when I say random, I don't mean like, you know, every corner has something, because that's not random. So you know, I think of random as being irregular, or you know, 1 on this side and 3 on this side. There's an imbalance. Sometimes we think of, we end up trying to balance things out, and I don't always want to do that. All right, I'm blending it quite a bit, so it's actually making the entire panel on the browner, yellower side. And I think it's interesting. Okay, let's go just a little bit. Oh, yeah, let me just show you another effect we can do here. I'm gonna go real aggressive on this one, this spot right here. Okay, and I'm gonna show you something kind of cool. I'm gonna blend it, but try to keep it on the darker side. I don't really like the shape, so I'm gonna try to kick it around a little bit. There we go. Ooh, that's good. All right, that looks pretty grimy to me. Now, what I'm gonna do is take another brush, and I'm going to take some of the white. Let's do this. Let's take some of the white, take just a little bit of the black. See, a little bit of the black goes a long way. All right, so I'm going for that gray, that light gray again. Okay, now I'm going to apply that color back onto that brownish color. Okay, and you can see I can kind of create layers, if you will. All right, I can more dramatically affect the shape. I'm going to do this on some larger panels too, so I can really show you what I mean. Oops, that was the original one. All right, yeah, so you can see here, it kind of affects. If we do, you know, a dark color, then a light color, and then a little bit dark color again, but less of it, and then light color again and less of it, we can create these layers, and it looks as if, you know, this is years of grime buildup, which I think is ultimately what we're going for. What I don't want to do, what we don't want to do when we're weathering, is just put on one color, one shade of weathering. There was a recent post, in fact, on one of the Facebook groups. It was one of the car groups, and somebody was talking about what rust really looks like, and they kind of zoomed in on a picture of rust, and it was a myriad of colors, from reds and oranges and greens and whites and blacks. And I think that when we're thinking of weathering being built up, that's kind of what we want to go for. We want to go for a myriad of colors, and sometimes they're contrasting against each other, right? We don't want to go like brown and then tan. We want to go like brown and then whatever the opposite end of the spectrum is, whatever the complementary color to brown is. I actually don't know what it is, because it's a mix of, let's say if you have, you know, a blue, you might want to go orange, right? Or if you're on the green side, you might want to go in the red direction, and put those together and see how dramatic you can get the effect. Not to mention all of the different gradations in lightness and darkness that can occur too. So this is perhaps getting into a little bit of like color theory and stuff, but I think it totally applies to what we're doing. All right. I like that. I'm going to leave it for now. I might change my mind later, but again, I've got lots of room to work with. I'm going to show you another effect. This is so much fun. Let's see here. I'm going to apply this effect, computer shut down, to the back side of the vehicle here. Let's just jump in over here. And I'm going to do essentially a splatter effect. This is a fun one. I'm curious, in the chat, if you wouldn't mind putting down what's the latest what's the last technique, new technique that you worked with? What's something where you're like, ooh, I want to try this, and you gave it a shot? What is that technique? Let me know in the chat. Would love to know. All right, I'm gonna get, pull in a bit here. Let me pull back out so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm putting some thinner, or some turpenoid, I should say, in a little cup, plastic cup. I'm then gonna blend in, that's probably too much, but okay, we'll see what I can do here. I'm gonna take quite a bit of this. I was gonna go with black, but let me get a little bit of the black going, but get more white in here. Be able to see that? Yeah, good. Okay. This is a technique I've shown on my videos, so it may not be completely new. It might be for some of you. All right, I'm gonna go a little bit darker. Ugh, not too much. If you are interested in doing any kind of weathering or working with these artist oils in terms of an oil wash, I really recommend getting the following colors, okay? So I'm gonna show you on the screen here. I've got white, black, brown. This is the basic, okay? If you can, go ahead and get yourself blue. Trust me, this is red. You can see at the tip there. And yellow. And now you can do anything. You can make any color, any shade that you could ever imagine. I actually went ahead and just got a green just to have it, but of course we can make green with yellow and blue. If you get these 6 colors, you're set. And since I started using oils, I'd say 15 years ago, maybe somewhere around there, this was the very first black I got. And as you can see, there's still some stuff in here. It's probably a fourth of a container in here still. So this will last you for a very long time. I have never actually seen it go bad. I've always make sure that the lid just goes right back on. And as long as you do that, it'll last you practically forever, as I believe. So yeah, I would, if this interests you on any level, just go ahead and get these, and that's enough. You don't have to buy the pre-made Tamiya Panaline stuff. You don't have to get the latest AK stuff or the latest Flurry washes. You can make them yourself. And you have a lot more variation by doing it yourself. And I think ultimately it's better. All right, let's take a look at our responses here. Connor, you bought yours at a show with a lot of res kit upgrades for. Very cool, good. Yeah, it doesn't need it, but I think that's great. It's fantastic. This was Southeast Asia. Even the grime had grime. Very true, Eric. Yep, you nailed it. Just like there's no such thing as Russian green, in my opinion. Yep, going to be trying paint markers for that camo I didn't mask. Okay, you couldn't mask. Yeah. All right, that's, you know what? I'm trying to, you sent me, Connor, you sent me an image of that that vehicle, and I'm wondering how they did paint the white, right? Was it done in the field with brushes, or did they spray? Did they have masks? Did they, you know, I don't think they had markers, right? But if you think about how they applied on the field, I'm sure markers would totally make sense. Speaking of the markers, and I picked up some myself. I picked 3 of the AK markers. These came in a set, and this particular set happened to be white, red, and yellow. And I thought for aircraft, Navy aircraft and Marine aircraft, these would really come in handy. And so far I've used the red one. I'm not sure if you guys have used them yet. And I used it for the edge of the gear bay doors. So I'll show you here. See that? And as you can see, they're also weathered on top of that. But this worked out beautifully. beautifully. I've always heard people say they're struggling getting the red on, and I understand, but I kind of had a technique of like I'd hold the brush a certain way, and it would, and even with my technique and my confidence and my, oh, you're just being a baby about it, just do it anyway. Even after that, I would still end up with spots in the wrong spot or mishaps. All right. With this, I think I had one mishap, and it was the way that I initially did it. I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to do it that way, and the next door came along and I did it perfectly, and every door since then worked out perfectly. So this red one's going to be invaluable for me. So I recommend, I think you can buy them individually, but this set came with 3. I imagine I'll use the white at some point. I imagine I'll use the yellow at some point. This set, particular little set, just made a lot of sense for me, and I'm really happy with how they worked out so far. Yeah, okay. Let me go on to the splatter effect. Great. Oh, you think it was freehand? Yeah, so freehand with a big brush probably, right? Yeah. And like I said, if you wanted to mask, I think, you could do a really, really nice job with just some of the Tamiya tape, I would probably on a board or something, lay 2 pieces down and then cut the lines out and then lift those 2 pieces and set them where you want them. The only problem then is if you're going to work with your airbrush is you got to shoot it, let it dry for a little bit, peel them off, and then go on to the next one. And you'd be using a lot of tape because you're applying for every one of those little splotches. So I can see how that would be difficult to do. Yeah, I think hand painting makes sense. That's probably the direction I would go to. Cool, great. All right, let's go with the splatter effect. I've got fairly thin paint here. I'm going to take a toothpick. I'm going to remove a little bit of the liquid just because I don't want it to be so heavy right now, but I'm just going to show you this effect. What I like to do is keep the toothpick where I want it and then just pull the brush down and splatter. Okay. Now, let me zoom in a little bit here so it looks a little better. All right. Now, it may not look splattery, right? It's actually, because I don't have a lot of pigment in here, it's very subtle. And that adds to the weathering too. That's another type of weathering, right? We're talking about layers. So maybe these are splatters that were there from months ago, or 2 days ago, and with the humidity of Vietnam, it, just baked it right in. And then I can, of course, if I want to go more aggressive, more obvious, I think ultimately what I would want to do is get more pigment in here. I didn't quite put a lot. Actually, what I mean to say by that is I used too much thinner on the outset. That's all right. Let's kind of fix it. Has anybody seen any good movies lately? Anything out in the theaters you recommend? Or maybe there's something on one of your favorite streaming sites. Let me know. Netflix or HBO or any of those. Amazon. I like Amazon Prime. I think they have a lot of cool old stuff on there, which is kind of what I gravitate to mostly, as well as my friend Eric there. But yeah, if you have any recommendations, let me know. All right, for this one, I'm adding a little bit of brown to the to make more of a grimy effect. Okay, and it's a little bit darker and also just a little more pigment in general. So I'm going to do the same effect. I'm going to put it back here a little bit. Yeah, you can see that, right? And I can do a little, I can do a lot, I can blend it. So let's take a look at this here. I'm just going to blend it. See? It almost goes away, and some of it's just kind of left over, right? It's just sort of like residual. See? And I can also streak it if I want to. So let's try that. Okay. Kind of a cool effect. All right, and I'm working directly on a flat surface. If I don't want to do this oil rendering effect on a smooth surface. I want there to be some grip so it holds it into place. So that's interesting to me, okay? This whole area is gonna get very dirty. So even if I happen to not like the effect, I'm just showing you, right? But even if I happen to not like it, I know that I can cover it up or I can remove it at some point. But I think it'll work. I think it'll work for now. All right, so I'm going to do that effect a little further up. And again, I don't necessarily need to show the splatters, right? I can leave the splatters. Maybe they make sense. Maybe they make sense in the wheel well, where oil and lubrication, you know, all kind of lubricating liquids and stuff would be nearby. Or I can just use it to blend, okay? And to stain the area. I can also do the effect, off camera, hang on, all right. I can also just kind of put little drops too, all right? Okay, I want to see if I can get a different size drops here. Get a little bit less paint on it. All right, and I'll let those sit for a little bit and see what they look like, okay? I might not like them, that's okay though, we'll see what happens. So that's a fun effect. This particular color that I've achieved is a good mix, I think, of gray, of black and white and brown. It's not equal in the mixes necessarily, but there's just enough brown in there. So it looks really, really grimy, really gross. All right, guys, let me know of movies you recommend. Anything online, anything in the theaters? Would love to know what you think, what you're watching. Also, if there happens to be a like button or a subscribe button anywhere around there that you haven't hit yet, I would appreciate if you could hit it. All right, so these ones I'm just going to leave them a little bit stained. All right, I think that works. Some of the drops kind of made their way on the wing. It's not necessarily bad, right? But I want to have more control over that. I want to be the one who decides when the weathering and how it happens. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to take the lid of my turpenoid container and just barely moisten the Q-tip, and I'm going to try to remove this little spot. I don't know if you can see it, but I want to show you what we can do with the turpenoid. There, it's completely gone. All right, the spot's completely gone. So if there's anything that we're doing that we really don't like, or we need to tone it down a little bit, you know, feel free to grab that. While I'm here at the wing, I think I'm gonna work here. I'm gonna do some effect here as well. I built the Zvezda SU-25 Frogfoot. I've gotten the case up there right next to my Hind gunship as well. And the work I did on the underside of the wing, it's the underside of these Russian aircraft, at least the ones from the 80s, were this beautiful light blue color. And I did a lot of effects with grays and browns using this oil rendering technique. And I just love how it worked out. And I now always try to achieve the same kind of effect that I got on that Frogfoot with every aircraft as far as like the under wing area is concerned. So when I'm looking at this, I know I've got that image of that, like that memory in my mind. All right, so we're gonna see what we got here, see what I can just kind of put some dots down. This is that browner color, okay? And I'm gonna work it along here. It's a little softer there. I will have a pylon sitting here on the wing, so I don't need to go work directly underneath it. Okay, again, I'm trying to keep it random. So whereas I've got one, then two here, one further away, I'm gonna build it up around the wing fold. Ooh, let me zoom out, sorry. There we go. Okay, and again, it looks pretty dramatic. Absolutely is dramatic. I'm gonna pull it back. I'm gonna tone it down. This is this effect really is one of subtraction, whereas other effects are, you know, you're adding. This is one where you add and then you pull it back. All right, let's see how I like this and if I do like it and what I can do if I don't. All right, that's good. In this case, I'm going to kind of go to the flow of the aircraft a little bit. Okay. There's one sitting in the corner here. That doesn't quite look right. It looks like, well, like a modeler put a bunch of paint there. So I'm going to take some of that moisture again, and I'm going to kind of pull some of it off. Oh, I think that works just fine. Cool, good, that'll work. All right, I think it's a good start. Again, it's a little bit aggressive. Okay. Okay, so classic noir, yep. Out of the past, Scarlet Street, I've seen Scarlet Street. Touch of Evil, I haven't seen that one in a while. And The Postman Always Rings Twice, I saw that one a couple years ago. Excellent, Eric. Thanks for sharing that, bud. Yeah, I definitely had a film noir phase for sure. Okay, let's take now this other brush. This is the grayer brush. Okay, and I'm gonna, let's see what I'm doing here. You know what? I'm not even thinking what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna do something and see what happens. Okay. See what happens here. You can see the difference between the darker gray and then just the straight up brownish gray. Okay, so we're, by the way, is the lighting okay on this? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah. The other thing you can do is, as I'm working sometimes, I notice just sort of natural shadows already occurring, and I might want to emphasize those. So to my eye, there's something happening right about here. All right, I'm not sure if you see that, but, and it might just be like my eyes are playing tricks on me, but I'm gonna roll with that. I'm gonna let that influence me. So I'm gonna go even darker, make a whole new patch, whole new pile of gray here. Go even darker, and I'm gonna kind of create a shape here, the shape that I kind of see on the wing. All right. Now, and I'm gonna start blending it kind of right away. Okay, I'm going up and down, and now if I go side to side, it's gonna blend it even more. At least it should. And it's not. That's okay. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit more, get into these little, I'm gonna connect the line a little bit more. Still trying to maintain that shape. And then I'm gonna take that turpentine again. Excuse me, turpenoid. I mean, not trying to mix you up. It's definitely not turpenoid. Oh, wow, did you see that? As I took pure turpenoid and just swept across, it created the whitest color. So what I want to do now is make sure that I'm not doing it too much. Okay. See, as I drop pure turpenoid on it, it starts to lift some of it a little bit up, I think. And it's just blending, okay? Now, I'm gonna come along with one of my larger brushes. Dry brush, okay? It's very soft. And I'm gonna kick the material around while still trying to maintain the shape. Just kick the material around, see if I can work with it, okay? Again, if I can't work with this, I'll remove it, not a problem. Okay. All right, I'm going to return to the Q-tip. I'm going to more directly influence the shape here a little bit because this edge is just not looking right to me. There we go. Kicking it around. Kicking it around. Okay, keep swiping along. Okay, it's turned into something interesting. All right. This is where you get a little bit, you know, Bob Ross influence. Like, what is it, right? Where did this little guy come from? Just a little tree sitting there. What is it? What's he doing there? All right. All right. I like it. It's dramatic. If I end up hating it, I can come back to it. I can get some splatter effect with a very light gray or just pure white over it and create some effect with it, okay? I think when it comes to weathering, again, we want random. We don't want grime balanced. Sometimes grime happens on one panel and we don't know what happened there, right? And that kind of question I find interesting. All right. I'm going to leave it for now. I keep telling myself that. Am I trying to convince myself? I don't know, but I'm going to leave it there, okay? I know I have to trust my experience, the fact that I know that I can fix it if I need to later on. All right. That said, I'm going to leave that panel alone. I'm going to try now to create the same kind of effects on the other side while still appearing random. Okay, I'm going to go with the browner one now. And this one I'm going to pull up a little bit higher. There we go. And I'm going to see if I can create something with that. Not only is it a different color, but it's also it's in a different direction. It's going forward to back. Cool, that's neat. Blend this guy. Actually, I want it to go this direction. Blend some of the gray here. Good. All right. Okay. That's something there. Yeah. Happy little gray. Yep. Angry clouds. Happy little grime spots. Absolutely. Totally Bob Ross. Good. Let me fix this one up a little bit here. Give me a thumbs up or a happy face if you are currently, like, at this moment working on your model. I'd love to know. Love to know. Another question I'm curious too, anybody out there also do any form of live streaming? If so, let me know and give you a little plug. Maybe we can pair up at some point or get a group live stream going. I think that might be a lot of fun. If you're interested in doing that sort of thing, let me know. Yeah. I joined a friend's live stream, I think 2 years ago. Guy met online, modeling and stuff. Model Tank Guy was his name. And I joined his live stream for about an hour or so. Had a good time. It was a neat experience. So it's something I am willing and happy to do if you'd like to do this together. I think that'd be pretty cool. All right, so Let's back up here. Kind of see the bigger picture. Okay. We definitely have some effects going. Okay, I got some splotches here, I think, from the earlier splatters. That's okay. The splatter is, I don't think I would keep, but I think I'm just going to cover it up. I'm going to continue to work this area. All right. I'm going to, as far as the flaps themselves, forgive me if I'm saying the wrong one. These are the flaps. I think the forward ones are the slats. I will sometimes mix those up. I apologize. Correct me if you know. The flaps, I think I'm going to just get some streaks and that'll be it. I'm not going to go too crazy on them. I think. I could change my mind. You know what? Let me do this real quick. I'm going to look at my computer here and kind of scan some of these photos. I don't really have a way of sharing these photos with you, but if you were to look up, you know, F-8, especially the VMFA 235, which is the specific squadron I'm working with, there's a lot online of really, really great shots. Okay, a lot of grime on these things for sure. But I'm just kind of scanning through here a little bit, see if there's anything. Yeah. This one I'm looking at is kind of on the cleaner side, but it's also parked in some sort of garage area. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm happy with this. This is definitely not, I'm going to go a lot more than this, but this is a good start. It's allowing me to, again, kind of regain the confidence and remind myself how I do this. I'm just going to plow through and do a few more here and there. Let's go with the brown here. Oh, maybe I can spend a little bit of time with some chipping for you too, which super fun technique. I feel like we have to be careful with chipping. I feel like I don't see it on photos as much as modelers, including myself, like to do it. It's one of those techniques where it's just so darn fun to do. It's so easy to get carried away. I like that smudge there. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to build up quite a bit here. Again, this is an area where the, oh gosh, I keep hitting that, where the arrestor hook would essentially catch. Now they have arrestor hooks here, but maybe the term isn't the, no, it's not the arrestor hook. Sorry, it's for the takeoff. There's for the catapult. That's the word I'm looking for the catapult. It would hook here. And again, I need to make a hook. I need to make just a piece of rod that'll go across. But before I go there, I'm going to just weather this area a little bit more. I've seen a couple of these areas and they were just beat up all to hell. Chipping, I think, would be absolutely appropriate here. And that's also kind of the effect I'm making here, you can see. Okay, but it's just really just a buildup of grime. Allow it to streak. Allow it to fall over the edges like this. I mean, it's just, yeah. I don't want to blend a whole lot, I think. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that. That looks good. That matches my memory of what these things look like. All right, should we do a little bit of chipping then? I think that would be neat. Welcome everyone. We've got a few folks watching. I got some 20 viewers. Feel free to jump into our live chat here. Just say hi, give a thumbs up. I've got a thumbs up from Connor, which means he is working currently on his model. Connor would join up with you, have to figure out the YouTube stuff. Yeah, understood. But once you get it figured out, man, absolutely would be great to have you join us. 100%. Yeah. Jim, welcome. Thanks for chiming in. I don't recall if you let me know what you're working on. Oh, you're the A7. Okay, Hasegawa A7 with res kits. Yeah. I like the A7. The A7 was, if I were to, not many years ago, a couple years ago, if I were to pick which one's my favorite, the A7 or the F8, because they look similar, I would have said the A7 for sure. But for some reason last year, or just a couple months ago, no, it was last year, I was looking around for kits to buy, and I ran across of course, the Hasegawa A4, and then saw that the store also had on sale an F8, and I was like, okay, just get both of them. And as I was working on the A4, I was doing some research on the F8 and just like kind of fell in love with the F8 as well. So I've got a place in my heart both for the F8 and the A7. The A7 has a lot of really interesting, colorful schemes. There's of course the low vis schemes. There's a lot of those, but I'm in a phase right now in my life where I really like colorful schemes, the high vis stuff. But I'd like to know what your Jim, what you're planning to do with the A7 as far as the scheme is concerned. And Connor, going back to what you said about the Russian green, I would completely agree with you. There's no such thing as Russian green. I think we've all seen the famous photo. I think a bunch of BRDMs or SA9s or something. I can't remember what the vehicle is exactly. And there's probably 50 of them in the picture. And practically every one of them is a different shade of green, from, the green of my shirt to, even the blue that you see here on this towel. I think that even that color shows up. So there's a drastic variation. And you know what? I tend to believe that's probably the case for most paint jobs, even the ones that appear to be as standardized as the U.S. Marine and Navy and Air Force. I mean, I'm sure it's not as dramatic, but something about it tells me if you probably put three FA-18s next to each other from different squadrons, I bet we're not going to see exactly the same grays on them. Just a hunch I have. Anyway, or that helps me justify not getting exactly the right color every single time. It's like a defense mechanism for my ego. All right, let's do a little bit of chipping here. Couple of ways to tackle this. One is getting a piece of sponge, literally a piece of sponge, and just putting it in this set of tweezers, and I can dab some black, or let me think here. Yeah, I think I would go with a dark gray. No, black. It depends. I'm thinking of the armor world, where the chipping might not exactly be as dark as black. Yeah, I'm mixing right now. I'm gonna call it black with a slight tint of white. Not even dark gray, because dark gray doesn't even. This is more like what you might consider like aircraft interior black, or cockpit black, or NATO black, if you're a Tamiya person like I am. XF69, I think that is. It's that off black color that works so great for things like tires and other colors. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus this chipping on the wheel struts themselves. I'm going to see if this is the direction I want to go or not. All right. Hopefully you go. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. What do we have here? Is it effective? Yeah, I think that kind of works. It's very small. Not subtle, but it's small. Okay. And I think, trying to maneuver in this light here. I think that's what we want. I don't I don't want to go crazy on this chipping effect. No, that's not true. Again, I'm in the mindset of Navy F-8. I need to remember we're talking about what I'm seeing here on these photos. Yes, it is pretty dramatic, actually. All right. There's, I think back to a quote from one of the, really a guy who's considered one of the top modelers right now. His name is totally eluding me, but he's kind of an expert on oil rendering. It's really his jam. He said something, you know, when it comes to chipping, you really can't have chips small enough. And I think the idea that he was trying to get across was that it doesn't look like chipping if the chips are too large, or if there's only large chips. That you have to have various sizes of chipping. And I thought that was, he made a good point. All right, so I've got some small chips kind of all around. I'm gonna stop there, and now I'm gonna target some areas with this chipping, okay? I'm gonna go back to that color, and I need to get the old visor on. All right, P1LT, yeah, welcome. Hi there, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate that comment. Thanks for saying it's nice job. Appreciate that. Feel free to, even if you want to share your name with us or let us know what you're working on model-wise, we'd love to know. Connor says one of my dioramas has different green trucks, BTR, BMPSs. Yeah, very cool, very cool. I think that's neat. I think it's really neat to just have, you know, have vehicles of just different shades. It just really brings the point home. While we're on the subject, I do want to just show you a Russian vehicle I did that I'm still quite proud of. This is the Cyber Hobby, which used to be, they purchased molds, I think, from DML. It was a DML kit initially. And this is the SA9 called the Gaskin. It was, when I was a kid, I had the DML. I wonder if I can get better lighting here. Nope. When I was a kid, I had the DML version of this and always wanted to finish it, never got around, just never, no, that's not true. I think I did finish it. I just ultimately didn't like how it turned out. So I always knew I'd come back to it, and I was happy to find that Cyber Hobby re-released it. Really, really fun. Again, didn't care too much about what shade of green I was going for. And I did a lot of chipping on it, actually, because I found some really interesting photos. Excuse me, I'm noticing some nasty cobwebs on this thing. I found some interesting photos, and I think I could show you in this picture here, this camera here. Scoot that Crusader off for a second. There we go. All right. I found some really neat photos online of this, not the exact, it was the BRDM chassis, which I think a lot of these vehicles are based off of. And as you can see here, there's like this chipping effect where it's a lighter gray color. So the chipping had occurred, trying to find a toothpick here. The chipping had occurred in a spot, and then it continued to, for whatever reason, it just continued to get deeper and deeper. So I emulated that by going over and kind of making a gray color. And then at the centers of that grayish, bluish color, I then got, and you can see it's not exactly black, but it's sort of the underneath color. And I just went for it because those photos I thought were so compelling. I did a little bit on the side here, I think a little bit on the other side, and then just left it, yeah, a bit more on this side as well. You can see those effects. So yeah, I thought it was really cool. I built up some of the brown the ground color here up at the tops. Try to imagine where the soldiers would walk on the vehicle and dirt would be on their boots and all that. Built some up here on top. I did a lot. I changed a lot on this vehicle, but I mean, I super detailed it big time. Let me kind of go into that because this was a lot of fun. I'm still pretty proud of it. I made new, let me zoom in here. These light guards at the front here were scratch built. These coverings for the light guards are completely scratch built. These were pieces of plastic that I forced into that shape. I added sort of a raised seam line across, and then these little like screw points here. So both of these capped areas, these capping areas are were scratch built. I also scratch built, let's see, the top here. I scratch built the mufflers for the exhaust here. These were completely scratch built to match the actual vehicle. This took a lot of work. I had to create essentially just thin sheet plastic and then lay down some of this ribbing and then drill these holes and just got the shape, you know, what I saw, based on what I saw in photos. These are, gosh, I'm trying to remember exactly what these things are right now. These are clips that would hold the rockets on the side of the vehicle, and these clips here are all scratch built. There's 4 of them, 2 on either side. The railing here is scratch built. That was plastic. I think on the launcher I didn't really have to do that much. It was pretty accurate. Oh yeah, okay. I'm going to have to hold the vehicle sideways in order to really show this, but there's a lot of details on the side here, and a lot of these details were scratch built with plastic. A lot of these joints here, these like hydraulic pieces, and on the other side as well. I think there was a few, like some of the boxes and stuff were scratch built. Oh, I also, this was a lot of fun. I got to scratch build this gear. There's a gear here, and that was really fun to do. I just essentially got a piece of tubing and then kind of spliced it, and then as I went over with a very small file and worked down each of those lines to where it kind of taper off and kind of create a triangular tooth, right? And I think there's, I don't know, probably 12 teeth on that one gear. That was fun. I put a lot of work into that, and of course you can barely see it, but I know it's there. Oh, I also, this was neat too. I had fun doing this as well. There's a little hatch, a door here that is centered, but it's supposed to be on this side of the vehicle from what my sources showed me. So I scraped it off and I completely rebuilt the door on the front on the starboard side there of the vehicle. It's very hard to see. I don't want to lift this thing too much. Maybe you can see that hatch there, yeah. While I'm in this position, there are windshield wipers on the inside, and I also scratch built those as well. And then I think I might have, you can see the axle is turned on the front wheels. I might have rebuilt the axle so that the front wheels turned. I don't think they offered that in the actual kit. I do have a video up of the SA9, if you could check it out. I think I have a couple videos about it. There's some of my older videos, so they're not super great quality, but you know, I think you can show fairly well all the work that I put into this particular model. Had a lot of fun. Again, just one I always wanted to have on the shelf, and I'm happy to have it on the shelf. What was fun about this kit, as I brought it to a contest, and I say fun loosely, I was standing near it and I watched this guy literally, like, I don't know what he was doing, but he started to like touch it. And then he broke a piece off. He broke one of these rocket launchers off. And I was like, what are you doing? You know, I don't think he'd ever been to a contest before. He was there with a friend or something, and his friend just didn't like warn him, or it was the weirdest thing. I've seen little kids do that, but I've never seen adults do that. So, you know, you got to watch out. Don't keep your eye open on at those contests. All right, how we doing? Oh, we have a blank screen here. Let's get something back in here. Oh, let's continue with that chipping. Okay. All right. I need to return to the off black color, I'll call it. There we go. Okay, that's the right one. All right. Again, notice I can take a break. I can take a detour here and come back to the oil paints, and I can still work with them, right? They're going to take a couple of days for this, you know, this to dry. All right, it's going to take a while for this to dry. So I don't mind taking my time with it. I'm in no rush. This is a chance for us modelers to be really, really artistic, you know, and not just constructing something, but also, you know, acting almost as if we're, you know, some of the great painters, Caravaggio and, you know, Rembrandt, and be able to kind of look at our models as works of art like they would, right? Anyway, so chipping. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of dry brushing with this, and I'm going to see if I'm looking right now for a place both where it would make sense and a place where you can see clearly what I'm doing. So I'm gonna pick right here, try to make it adjust, try to zoom as much as I can. Sorry about the shaky camera. And I'm going to dry brush. I'm going to pull against this piece of the strut here. Okay, I'm going to see if I can create a chipping effect by pulling up. Okay, and I'm going to pull up, and I'm also going to pull down. I'm essentially dry brushing the edge. Ooh, that's a little too much there. It's okay. All right, now I'm going to bring it closer to myself here and see if I like it. Okay, it's not too bad, but I think the point is made. You kind of see how I can create that chipping effect just by essentially dry brushing. Okay, I'm gonna take off a little bit more of the paint just so I have a little more control over it, and I'm gonna try to tackle this little spot right here, this little kind of hook sticking out. And again, I'm just gonna rub up against the edge of it. All right. Get a little bit on the edge of this rod piece here. Okay. And I'm going to pull some on this panel right here, whatever this piece is. Oh, there we go. Yep. See those little dots I'm creating right there? That's going to look nice. Okay. Get a little bit on this side too. And I think it's important to go in different directions. What we don't want are the chips all kind of going in one direction, right? Because that's just not realistic. When I have these nice 90-degree angles, these little box pieces, I like to get the corners because it makes sense. I can certainly go along these hydraulic lines or these wires here, cables. These were pieces of plastic that I wound across here. If you look back to the video I released last Sunday, you'll see all the work that I did in these wheel wells. Okay, there is a raised panel that I added. It was a Mike Grant, essentially a rivet panel. It was kind of like a 3D decal thing, and I'm gonna rub against it so that it pops out a little bit more. I think you're seeing that, okay? Notice I'm doing this work before I add on the gear doors. And as a reminder, the gears, the main gear back here are not glued in yet. They're just in position. I really wanted to make sure I got them just right. So I think what I'll do is I'll add a couple of dabs of Tamiya extra thin, and that should seal them in enough. I don't think I need to go the super glue route for these. Okay. I'm gonna go on the inside on this panel here. It's much more colorful. Okay, and I'm gonna kind of side swipe some of these fuse boxes or whatever they are. Okay. And what I'll do is I'm gonna come back to this model again at some point tomorrow and just kind of double check and make sure that everything I did makes sense, because it might not. I'm trying to show as an example here. But again, I have time to make these adjustments because of the nature of the oil paints. All right, I'm going to soften some of them up just because they're a little bit dramatic. And by softening them up, now they become not necessarily chips, but they become staining and other forms of weathering. All right. So you see, I think if there's anything you can take out of this live stream today is working with oil paints are extremely versatile. I use them for so many effects. I use them for panel lines. I use them for weathering. I use them for a number of things. Actually, I will actually use them to touch up paint mishaps, on the paint job itself. I might find, let's say on this red here on the nose, right? Let's say there was some of the paint had come off or something, and I didn't like how it came off. I could dig into some of my red and just put it there and blend it, and I can add some black to it if it needs to be a little darker, or some other colors to sort of adjust it and tone it, and I can use oil paints to do that as well. Okay, super, super versatile. If you're not using them, I really, really recommend you do. These can run, good like $10 sometimes, each of these colors, but once you get each of these colors, you're set. And like I said, if you get these three, the white, the black, and the brown, or the burnt sienna or whatever, burnt umber it's called, you're set. You can do just about anything at that point. So yeah, there we are. Okay, these are some weathering effects. I'm just essentially going to use these 3 or 4 effects. The splatter, I'm going to do some streaking. I didn't get a chance to show you streaking. Maybe I'll show that in another video. The panel discoloration, the staining, all of these effects I'm just going to continue to use all around this model. And I think in my 4th video, my 3rd video, it's going to be, which should come out next weekend. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, next weekend. I go over the paint and how I masked off for the red and stars on this model. So if you're interested, check out that video when it drops. And in the video after that, which I think is the 4th one, I'll show you more of the weathering, probably from the top side of the aircraft. Okay. Just want to show you too a little bit that I did, and this will be in a video. You might notice some of the splotchy effect I created here on the top of the wings. So I'll talk about that in a video too, how I achieve that. All right, I think we're going to end it there. Yeah, let's see here. Diorama's based in Chernobyl. Oh yeah, so that they're all rusted out. Absolutely. All right. Eric says, let the chips fall where they may. Yep. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We had, at this moment, we have 10 viewers concurrently watching. That's great. Thanks for joining us. Please feel free to chime in on the chat next time. Love to hear from you. Yeah, we had 272 views overall, which is amazing. The average duration of viewing was about 3 minutes. That's all right. But yeah, thanks so much for joining in the chat, and happy modeling, guys. All right, I'll see y'all later. Bye.